All right, hello everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, and we shall begin shortly. We're going to be talking about uh, dementia, stress, and memory. My name is Dr. David Ajibade. I've actually been doing a series. I started on Friday, so this is the third part in the series. Dr. King suggested that I come on for this on Wednesday. I start doing the series every Wednesday, so you are stuck with me for the foreseeable future as far as Wednesdays are concerned. It's great to have you guys on. Please be sure to, when you're able to get in, let's know where you are tuning in from. Tuning in, maybe logging in, I guess is the right word. So again, my name is Dr. David Ajibade. That's my name on the screen right there, just below me. And we were talking about dementia. First, we talk about stress and how it affects your brain, and then how it can lead to dementia. So it's going to be interesting. Hello, Vare Owens Hopkins. Hello from Oklahoma City. I used to live in Tulsa, believe it or not. That was a long time ago. Beautiful city. Dr. Denise, DMV, Ethel Harris from Connecticut. Greetings from Georgia. But okay, great. Lots of people coming on. Awesome. How many of you, if you were on our earlier show, on the earlier shows that we did, we did two now. Last week, Friday, and the week before, Friday as well. If you were on any of those, let me know over here. Hey, Kimberly, I'm in Maryland. Well, I'm in Maryland too. Okay, awesome. Awesome seeing you, Dr. Ajibade. Well, hello, Veronica. Okay, I think I know Dr. Veronica. You're in California, aren't you? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So I'm just going to give a recap, since for some of you who were not on our show last week or the week before on Friday. So basically, I started by talking about the importance of us as Black people understanding what our risk factors are where dementia is concerned. I think too much of the time we tend to ignore it, and I've really been frustrated in Baltimore because I've been trying to reach out to the leadership, the health department, and other NGOs and organizations to say, hey, listen, we've got to do a lot. We got to do a lot where this is concerned. And there are obvious reasons. It seems as if people just acknowledge that there's a problem, but they don't want to dig any further. This is my experience. They're not wanting to dig any further as to really get to the bottom of this issue and say, okay, these are the reasons why we Black people have such high rates of dementia. And it's almost as if they're afraid to hurt people's feelings, or maybe it's a liability issue. I don't know. But I started speaking about it, and I started talking a lot about things like vitamin D and cardiovascular disease. And at some point, someone was actually cautioning me and saying, no, maybe I shouldn't speak about vitamin D so much. Well, wait a minute. One of the top reasons why we are more prone to brain disorders is because of our low levels of vitamin D. In fact, they've gone as far as saying that you can reduce your risk of dementia by almost 40% if your vitamin D levels are normal. And we know that most Black people's vitamin D levels are terrible, especially in the winter. So it's become a mission of mine to really educate, not just about vitamin D, but all the other factors too that make us more prone. Blacks are twice as likely than whites. Women are worse. I don't know what the proportion is, but women are certainly worse off than men when it comes to dementia. And I gave the reasons for that the 2 Fridays ago. We're not going to go into that now, but we're going to be talking about stress. And stress, obviously, is one of the things that can lead to dementia. And you may say, well, I didn't know that. Well, it's true. There's the mechanism by which it happens, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so I just want to check in real quick just to make sure that everybody's hearing me okay. All right. If you have any questions specifically about dementia, or any specific topics you would like us to discuss, please type in the box below. This thing on stress and dementia was actually one of the suggestions from last Friday that we should look into. So because it was based on that I'm going into this. So we want to, like I said, we need to address this from every possible angle so that the individual, the man, the woman, the boy, girl, can know, okay, in each scenario, whether they're rising up, going to bed, they're playing soccer, they're at work, whatever, you need to know how this is affecting your brain, either for better or for worse, either positively or negatively. You need to understand the basic principles that affect brain function. Everything from what you eat to what you drink to what you smoke, whatever. You need to know, but the reason for that is also not just for you to avoid these things. Some of these things we cannot avoid all. Well, the bad things, that is, we can't avoid them altogether. But once we're exposed to them, we can know what to do to mitigate or to reduce the impact of those conditions. So it's really, really important that we be very, very well educated when it comes to brain health. Somebody says, what foods can boost your vitamin D levels? Veronica, listen, I'm just going to tell you right off. If you're talking about vitamin D, don't waste your time with foods. Don't waste your time with foods. There are only two effective ways you can get vitamin D. That means that the levels that you need to have, that your body and your brain need to have. One is by staying out in the sun. Forget that option if you're in the East Coast, because this is winter time. You're not going to get much sun, and the sun, your skin has to be directly exposed to the sun. You can't just go out fully clad the way I am and expect to get any sun, because the skin makes vitamin D from direct contact. When specific rays of the sun land on the skin directly, not through the glass window, not through clothes, not through whatever, that's land on the skin, and your body has to make the vitamin D from that exposure. That's one. Number two is by supplements. I don't know why this is such an issue sometimes. And I mean, it's mind-boggling why anybody should argue with that. You need a lot more vitamin D than they're telling you need. 800, I think it's like 600 or 800 international units. That is terribly inadequate. And the older you get, the heavier you get, the larger you get, what else now? The darker you are, or even if you're dealing with a chronic condition, chronic illness like diabetes or hypertension, those just layer on top of each other, and they make it more important for you. They make your need for vitamin D even larger, and they even make you more deficient in vitamin D, because vitamin D is needed for a lot of functions in the body. Hey Jada, welcome. How about NAD plus infusion? So that's that's a good thing. And if somebody says about NAD plus infusions, NAD is a very powerful thing for the liver and it helps in detoxification and so on and so forth. I like to deal with the most basic things first. Let's not go, if we're not dealing with the basics, what are we doing dealing with the more, shall we say, out of reach kind of things? I'm from a country I'm from Africa. I'm from Nigeria. So it's, we don't have access to all these different things. But even if you have the access to them here, start with the basics first, and then we can now layer on top of that. What is a good supplement? Ooh, that's a tough one. A good supplement is a supplement that meets your specific body's needs. So vitamin D obviously is a supplement. So for Black people, vitamin D is a supplement that everybody should have, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to show you some slides. So we're talking about we're talking about stress today. So let me start. You let me know if you can see my screen. Sometimes I have trouble with this. Hang on this one. Present. Okay, no slides. Present. Share screen, that's what I'm doing. Share screen. Okay, and I'm gonna go window, that's what I'm gonna do, and then okay. All right, I'm gonna assume everybody's seeing my screen. I tried this last week and everybody said they saw my screen, so what is this? Okay, I'm going to switch back really quickly. Did you see? Just let me know a quick yes if you see my screen now. Okay, tell me if you see my screen. Okay, good, perfect. Okay, so we are talking about stress, your brain environment, and Alzheimer's disease. Last week I kind of like gave there are about 7 main functions, and this may be an oversimplification, but at least it helps us, it gives us a framework to think in terms of what the brain does. The most important thing, in my opinion, that the brain does is it helps with speech. That's what makes us human. That's what separates us from the animals. Yes, of course. Probably more important is maybe the control of breathing, the basic bodily functions, those automatic things that we're not cognizant of. But speech is very important. Your ability to think, your ability to conceptualize, yes, that is very important. Emotional expression, movement. Some say the reasons why we have really, really big brains as opposed to the animals is because of the wide range of movements that we're involved in. Everything from the dexterous movement with our fingers to eye control to running to balance and so on and so forth. We certainly, as human beings, have a lot more complex movements than other people. Memory is very important. I mentioned automatic processes, and of course the receiving of information from the six senses. And I said that all of these functions of the brain, that's the brain on your left, on the right is what is known as a synapse. All the functions of the brain have to happen at the most basic unit. So if you talk about the family is a basic unit of the country, of a nation, the couple, father, mother, whatever, husband, wife, then the child. That's a basic family unit, or some variation of that. It's based on that your community, the state, the nation, so on and so on and so forth. The synapse is the basic unit of the brain. Nothing happens, whether it's thinking, seeing, movement of the digestive system. Nothing happens without, at the top here, I hope you're seeing my cursor, there's a top, the top of that, it's like more like a dumbbell, half of a dumbbell. That is one neuron or brain cell sending impulses to the other neuron across what is known as a synapse or the synaptic cleft, the gap, synaptic gap. So this could be dopamine, it could be serotonin, it could be whatever. Depending on what the function is, the neurotransmitter will be used appropriately. But this is how it all happens. So whatever the condition, whether it's Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's disease, Lewy body dementia, whatever it is, it affects the synapse. Yes, it affects the neuron, but it also affects the synapse. And I think this is something that we need to talk about more because we need to understand how to strengthen the synapses, how to maintain them, go back a minute, how to maintain these synapses and how to protect them so that they stay on into our 80s, 90s and beyond. It's very, very important. So we need to understand what damages the synapses, what strengthens the synapses. And by the way, the more synapses, the more connections you have in your brain between different brain cells, the better and healthier your brain will be. So health of the brain can be measured by the intricacy and diversity of synapse connections. Same thing with human beings. The healthier, the more successful people are. If you go back and you look into their lifestyles or their relationships, you see that they have a lot of great social relationships. So it all, as it is within, in the body, in the brain, as it is, so it is without, in the community and so on. So, all right, the three main reasons dementia happens. I mentioned this too in the last classes. There are three main reasons. One, they have greater attacks. Anybody who develops dementia, anybody, whether it's a young person, an older person, it's due to three things. They have their brains are exposed to greater attacks over a period of time, and maybe for a longer period of time. Number two, they have fewer defenses against those attacks. By the way, vitamin D is one of the great defenders against attack. And number three, when things begin to go wrong, when maybe the memory begins to falter or they're beginning to behave haphazardly or erratically, the spouse notices that he or she is behaving erratically, their loved one is, they don't receive the proper medical attention at that time. Because let's face it, there are some dementias that are absolutely reversible if they are caught in time. And if the doctor knows what they're doing, the doctor should be able to run the right tests and identify where the problem is and cut it short, nip it in the bud and address it. But many times people, and sometimes we Black people, we don't go and receive the medical attention in time. And even then, maybe we don't get the right treatment of the doctor. Like I said, and this happens, the doctor may not know how to probe and find out what the problem is, and therefore the thing continues to fester and to grow. All right. So one of the great attackers on our brain is stress. And stress could be good, it could be bad. We're not going to be talking about good stress now. But stress in general is anything that puts a pressure or that threatens to overwhelm a person's natural ability to deal with that stress. So we're talking about bad stress now. It could be anything from marital stress. It could be anything, financial stress. We're dealing with a lot these days. It could be physical stress, environment. So it could be just the fear of impending doom. In other words, there's nothing that you can see on the outside that is causing problems, but there's a fear of impending doom. So those are the kind of things we know about. And of course, the big one, of course, is racism, especially institutional or generational racism, especially towards Black people. There are still unsolved problems that are still in our psyches, a lot of us, that are still affecting us, and we still see it on the outside in the way we are treated. Now, I did not grow up here. I grew up in Nigeria, like I said. So I am very, very careful not to talk about and not to deal with it too much, because I don't want what I say to come across as hollow. There's no way I can speak about it like someone who has had the same experience, has had that kind of experience. So I'm very, very careful to not to sound insincere. But I truly understand. I mean, in some way, in my own way, I understand what has happened, and it is very, very unfortunate. But like I said, I can't delve into it all that much. I do recognize that it affects the brain, and so the brain has to be. So we need to understand how it affects the brain and how we can reduce its impact on our brains, because it has happened. Now we are left. We as individuals must, in our individual ways, deal with the impact and the aftermath, and know what to do to strengthen our brains. So I'll leave it at that. So those stresses that we've talked about are mainly the overt, the ones that we recognize. Many people have another kind of stress, which I call silent or insidious stress, which we don't recognize as stress, but is happening nonetheless, and it is slowly eating away at our brains. It's eating away at our bodies as well. It's affecting our hearts, our blood vessels, our guts. It's affecting our hormones. It's affecting our muscles. Some cases of and our bones. Some cases of osteoporosis are really due to prolonged stress. So there's that thing going on, and it could be things like just boredom, or just dissatisfaction in your marital life, or just dissatisfaction with the way your kids have turned out, or grandkids are turned out. Or it's like, after all I've done for them, this is what I get. And you may not see it as such, but nevertheless, it is happening. So what I say is that whether or not you're feeling stress, just assume that there's stress, some degree of stress, and it gets worse as you get older. But it doesn't get worse, but your body has less ability, because everything weakens as you grow older. Yeah, I mean, we have to admit that everything tends to weaken as we grow older. So as we grow older, that stress, the impact of that stress may be greater. So a good place to start with is just assume that, listen, I've got to do something about protecting my body, my brain against stress, so that when the big stress does happen, at least you have some kind of backup. You built your defenses to some degree. Speaking about defenses, stress affects the three main defenses. The three main reasons why people get dementia. Stress increases the attacks on the brain. Hang on, let me see. Okay, let me just get that. So stress increases the attacks on the brain. And let me explain that. So one of the things that your body produces a lot of is a hormone called cortisol. Everybody knows what cortisol is. So cortisol is a hormone that is produced in the adrenal glands in the body. And what it does is that it kind of revs your body up for fight, for flight, or it makes you freeze. And it's only meant to be released for a short time to deal with the issue. But like we said, there are some kinds of stress that just kind of like they're just grate away. They are just there in the background, grinding away at your brain. And that's because the cortisol levels have been maintained at a higher level. It's the stress didn't just go away. Like I said, marital stress, dissatisfaction, loneliness, boredom. That's an ongoing, if that's an ongoing thing, for many of us it is, it causes the cortisol levels to be high for a longer period of time. And what cortisol, high levels of cortisol does, anyway, what high levels of cortisol does is that it affects the most sensitive parts of the brain. One of them is the hippocampus, which is known as the memory center of the brain, is the one that coordinates everything to do with memory. It handles it there. Of course, there are other parts of the brain that deal with memory, but the main grand central station, memory station, is the hippocampus. And high levels of cortisol damage the hippocampus. This is when you think about it, you realize that, yeah, when I'm stressed, it's hard for me to remember that stuff. I remember in medical school, those people who were not sleeping well or who were really, really stressed, even though they were among the smartest in the class, I remember vividly. Many of them failed their exams, even though they had the capacity to. But the problem was that once they got in front of the examiner, or once they opened their question papers, they just froze. They didn't know what to do because there were high levels of stress. So that's one way it does. Another thing that stress does is that it raises blood sugar levels. Again, blood sugar is bad for the brain. High blood sugar levels, I'm not talking about diabetes now. Just constantly having high sugar in your blood is very bad for your brain. And we'll probably address that in a different topic because it's so important that we have to devote time to it. Number two, it reduces your defenses, so it breaks things down. It affects your immune system, obviously. Stress affects your immune system. It affects your ability to detoxify, to get rid of waste products. And it's nothing that it does that we don't recognize as much is that it damages the guard to the brain, the protector of the brain. It's called the blood-brain barrier. It's like a barrier that prevents certain things, including toxins, from crossing over from the blood into the brain itself. It's called the blood-brain barrier. What stress does is that it weakens that barrier. And so it lets a lot of things that shouldn't be getting into the brain get into the brain. Toxins, chemicals, and so on and so forth. Like I said, it affects the immune system. And when you're stressed, unless somebody takes you to the hospital, you just want to go home and lie down. Not, especially women, women just don't want to do anything. We just want to lie down. Women maybe different where that is concerned. So I always want to bring you back to these three things. These are the three things that increase your risk of getting dementia. Greater attacks over a long period of time, your defenses are fewer, and you have you don't get the prompt medical attention when you need it. Those are the three things. Now I talk about the dementia's dirty dozen, where it has about 12 different pathways to dementia, including illnesses, injury, insults, insulin resistance, immune functions, and so on and so forth. They all start with the letter I. You might want to see that on my YouTube channel. I address each of these in turn, and if you long want, you can give our YouTube channel. All right. So we just talked about how stress affects your brain, and we talked about how the three different factors. I'm going to get back. I'm going to log out because I can't see anything right now. All I'm seeing are my slides. Once I'm done with this in the next 5 or so minutes, I will start addressing your questions, and then we can go from there. So what do you do about stress? There are some obvious things that's specific to your own circumstance, obviously. So there's some common sense things that you want to do. You want to reduce your stress. Nothing is worth it. Nothing is worth it. Not having high cortisol levels, high sugar levels, high levels of chemicals that damage your brain over a period of time. The weaker your brain is, the more dementia can set in. The more dementia will come in and cause cause more damage. So we want to treat stress as the enemy. I always think in terms of nutrients first. I think supplements first, because your brain, your body need, whatever they're going to do, they're going to need specific nutrients to be able to function and to be able to fight off or fend off the attacks and rebuild itself. Your brain is not going to do it with just water. Your brain needs nutrients, and we are not getting enough of these nutrients in our foods. So these are the basic things I always talk about. We've all heard about vitamin D. I'll talk more about it. Zinc is very important. Vitamin C. Vitamin C too is really important, because vitamin C helps you make collagen, and part of your brain is actually made out of some collagen. Your brain is made of collagen as well. Everything is made up of collagen to some degree. So we're trying to make sure that the raw materials to maintain the structure of the brain are intact. Magnesium is good for relaxing the brain. It's very important in sleep. I would say all 6 of these things you're looking at are very important in sleep. I kind of mentioned it, but I'm going to say it again. Stress affects your sleep. Anything that affects your sleep is very dangerous to your brain, because sleep is when your brain has a chance to repair itself and to recover and to consolidate its memories. So if you're not sleeping well, your brain is not functioning well, period. So you've got to have plenty of sleep. You've got to have 7 hours of sleep a night, and it has to be in pitch darkness. That's why I always recommend everybody can see this. This is a sleep mask. You cover your eyes. I know when I don't use it, I know the quality of my sleep has diminished. So you really want to have a good, if you can't have complete darkness, and I would say, even if you can on the outside, even if you have very dark shades, I still say use a sleep mask. It makes a huge difference. All right. Potassium, magnesium, very important for relaxing the blood, relaxing the brain and relaxing the blood vessels. Omega-3 fatty acids, your brain is made up of fats. 60% of your brain is, and over 50% of that fat is made up of omega-3. So it makes sense to have some omega-3 on a regular basis to help to strengthen the structure that is known as your brain. I can guarantee you, most people who develop dementia have at least 3 of these deficiencies over a long period of time. They just weren't getting them because no one told them about it. No one knew about it. And so over the years, over the decades, this deficiency the brain was needing, your brain was shouting, please, I need this, I need this, I need this, but you were not getting the signals, or the person was not getting the signals. And over time, the deterioration just continued and continued and continued until it resulted in dementia. But not to worry. Help is always available. All right, so what to do about stress? The first one, I talked about the basic parts. So I told you these are the very, very basic things. My opinion, you can't get this from food. You need a supplement. And obviously, you need to have a good source for this supplement. And that's where people like me come in and can help direct you. But you definitely need them. Everybody needs them. You need starting them right away. What to do about stress? The more advanced. So I'm just going to rush. I'm just going to speed through this. Probiotics are known as the good bacteria. We're learning more and more about the importance of having. We all have bacteria in our gut, and many of us, when it comes to, we don't, because we don't know, we don't make the right decisions about our food choices and how our lifestyles. But probiotics, I've seen this with my patients. I've seen that when I give probiotics, it helps a lot with their brains. Another thing are hormones. As you grow older, especially during menopause, the essential hormones like estrogen, progesterone, even testosterone, they all begin to drop. But progesterone drops the most. What we know is that estrogen is one of the great protectors of the brain. Estrogen, yes, that female hormone, estrogen, one of the greatest protectors of the brain, most powerful protectors. But what happens during menopause? Your estrogen levels plummet. And so your protection, you lose that protection. Now, we men have an advantage in that we can convert our testosterone to estrogen. And so that helps to protect the brain. But women not as much, which some theorize maybe that's one of the reasons why women tend to have twice as much dementia as men do. But that's another story for another time. There are nutrients and nutrient supplements, which I use for my patients, that help to provide, they're like building blocks. So they're not fully formed estrogen, they're not fully formed testosterone and so on, or not fully formed thyroid hormones. Another thing I didn't mention, thyroid hormones are very important, but they are building blocks. So you take them in, your body now makes the hormones that it needs. Your brain makes the hormones that it needs in the right balance. So you're not having too much of one over the other. Your body knows what to do with those building blocks. So it makes them in the right balance. And I've seen some tremendous results in terms of mood and memory and so on when people begin to take this. And of course, there are other specific brain supplements that improve memory and so on. A lot can be done. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. A lot can be done. All right, everybody. So meditation is very good to relax the brain. Exercise is always good for anything. There's no disease that exercise does not work for, yoga, etc. But the basic things, in my opinion, these basic building blocks, these basic supplements here, and these, thankfully, they're the cheapest ones as well. Okay, I think we have done. I want you to make this as simple as possible. So I'm going to go back to the screen, and let's see. Okay, good. How are we doing? I like I said, I couldn't see any of the questions or the comments, so I'm just beginning to see them now. How are we doing so far? All right. Are you familiar with neurofeedback brain training for? Yes, I am familiar with neurofeedback brain training for Alzheimer's and dementia. It's good if you have access to it. Very good. Jada again says, I'm sure that would vary per person. Oh yes, Cherie, right. You mentioned probiotics. What are your thoughts about prebiotics and its importance? Great question. So prebiotics are it's like the foods that is given that the probiotics, that the good bacteria eat. So things like fiber. I personally use a fiber supplement I get from Whole Foods. I never leave anything to chance because I know I cannot eat a salad every single day. But yes, absolutely important. If you have like fermented foods, if you eat them regularly, it will help in the diversity and the health and strength of your bacteria. Many times with many illnesses, and I deal a lot with a whole range of illnesses from autism, Down syndrome to dementia and strokes. What we know is that for many of these conditions, there's a very low diversity. It means that there are just fewer varieties of bacteria, and that is one of the problems. It's not just that there are good and there are bad. It's a question of a lack of variety. So giving fiber, taking different kinds of fruits and vegetables, and different kinds of foods markedly increases the variety and diversity in the gut. So it makes the good bacteria especially very healthy and very strong. And you really need the good bacteria because they help your brain. So yes, I am totally, Cherie, right? I love prebiotics are really good. Very, very important. Monique says, my mom was diagnosed with vascular dementia last week. What does this come from? And what are some of the things that I should expect, understanding that everyone is different and may not experience the same things? Great question. So what does this come from? Well, vascular dementia is a type of dementia that occurs with results as a result of repeated damage to the blood vessels, specifically the arteries in the brain. Many people who are diagnosed with vascular dementia have had some sort of strokes, maybe not overt strokes, maybe silent strokes that they can see on the MRI scan and PT scan. So it's a dementia that occurs as a result of repeated damage to the blood vessels. Now, what that means is that if there's damage to the blood vessels, the brain cells have suffered repeated neglect, deprivation. They've been deprived of oxygen and nutrients to help them function and help them work properly. And so over time, that results in the dementia known as vascular dementia. So it's going to affect, and again, it's different people. There are different people are affected in different ways. But of course, memory is a big thing. Some mood, behavioral problems, they're all factors. So, and that brings us to another point: cardiovascular disease. And This is vascular dementia. Any cardiovascular disease has been found to be one of the main components in any kind of dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's or Lewy body. Alzheimer's, over 80% of all Alzheimer's cases have been found to have a cardiovascular component. So it's very, very important that you maintain your blood pressure. I have a blood pressure monitor here. I always check my blood pressure because because I found out I was high, became hypertensive. I mean, what the heck? So I check my blood pressure regularly. You want to check your blood sugar regularly, especially if maybe you've been diagnosed before with pre-diabetes. You want to make sure that your blood sugar levels and your blood pressure levels are normal, because those are two main things that will affect the quality of your blood vessels, especially blood vessels in the brain. Okay, what's the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease? There is no dementia is an umbrella term which includes several forms. Some are reversible, some are irreversible. Alzheimer's disease is the big form. It's about 70 to 80% of all dementias, and most recognize that it is untreatable or irreversible. Question mark, in my opinion. All right, so I hope that answers the question. Can you discuss sundowning? How can you develop a good nighttime routine for your loved ones? Sundowning, that's a very interesting point. All right, really quick, let me explain it as succinctly as I can. Sundowning is not a syndrome; it's a phenomenon. I would say it happens to some kind of dementia. Some dementia patients, they will say about a third of them, when the sun begins to go down, hence the name sundowning. About 4 p.m., 5 p.m., when the sun begins to go down, you begin to, or the individual patient exhibits some very strange behaviors. It could mean, some of them could just be agitation, some could be confusion, some could be fidgeting, some could just say, well, I just want to go home. Meanwhile, they're at home, or they're in their loved one's home, or some of them don't even recognize their loved ones anymore. It's an aberration. There's still a lot of theories about what causes it. For instance, damage to the part of the brain that regulates your sleep-wake cycle, your sleep cycle, wake cycle. It could be the reduction in melatonin, which helps you sleep and help you relax better. It could be damage to the synapses of the brain. So they're looking at other things, but the main area that we're looking at is the parts of the brain that regulate the sleep-wake cycle. So some of the things that we recommend is that you try and get your loved one or the patient to sleep well during the night. I sometimes recommend melatonin for my patients, other sleep medications, and then get them to exercise and get them to move well during the day, so that they are more tired in the evening. So get them stack those activities, so to speak, during the day. So when evening comes, they are more tired and less apt to become agitated or addressed. But yeah, there's a lot more to go to it. I can only say a few things on the surface level. Okay, let's see. I have high blood pressure and high cholesterol, recently diagnosed in the past 4 months. Your education and knowledge came right on top. Okay, and I hope that means that it helped. Cigarette smoke inhalation is a huge risk factor for many health conditions. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Essence. Please forgive me if I don't pronounce your names properly. Hyacinth Charles. Let's do more of this for our people. Let's not surrender to the genetic theory. Let's not surrender to the genetic theory when there are many things we can do to prevent and even reverse disease. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate your saying this. I really appreciate this. So if you have any ideas, folks, please reach out to me. I'll put my email address. I made it one of my missions in life to really to bring it out into the public, let people know what they can do to reduce the impact of dementia in our Black community, because too many people are just, I talk to leaders and all that. I'm so disappointed in how uninterested they are in making a difference. They're just not taking it seriously as they should. And when you look at everything, I was interestingly, I was looking at at a poster, a dementia conference, a conference on dementia, and there were at least 30 people in that picture. Can you guess how many of the people who are the speakers? These are the experts, the researchers, the scientists. There are 30 of them in that picture. Can you guess how many of them look like me? Try none. So it's flabbergasting. I'm flabbergasted, really. So we need people that look like me, talking to people that look like you, or to people that look like me about this condition, and speaking from a perspective from a culturally sensitive perspective, obviously, but also being in your face, really putting our fingers on where the problem is. We can't just be pussyfooting, if I can use that term, around and just throwing around generalities like eat less starchy foods, take less sugar, be happy, exercise more. I mean, that's useless information. We've got to get into the specifics scenarios that we Black people can relate to. That's just my soapbox. Okay, let me see things. My mom was diagnosed. Okay, I saw that. So I'm kind of like skipping back here. I can't see the full slide. Is that true? Were you guys not able to see the full slide? What's number 6 omega-3 fatty acids? Okay. All right. So thank you, Jada. Mary Welch, Riverside. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Mary. Can you discuss the relationship between grief and Alzheimer's? That's great. Well, I hope grief is a form of stress too. So grief, things tend to shut down. The good hormones, the good neurotransmitters are depressed. The bad neurotransmitters are elevated. Stress levels are elevated. So the thing about grief is that it depresses everything from your immune system to your thinking processes, and so on, and so forth, and so on. And so anytime your good is depressed, the bad tends to rise. And I'm using very, 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 very elementary terms now. But I try to say, anytime you're good, you got to realize that we're in a fight. We are in a fight. Our bodies are constantly being bombarded. Our brains are constantly being bombarded. We need energy to be able to live healthily. So if our bodies are not generating energy in the right amounts, then sickness by default will occur. And sickness could be anything from heart disease to dementia. So it's very important that our bodies are constantly generating lots and lots and lots of energy. Okay, helpful information, Dr. Ajibade. Thanks. Thank you, Veronica. Greetings from Canada. How much vitamin D should Black women take per day? Well, I'm not going to give you any specifics. I can say what I do for my patients, and I recommend nothing less than 10,000 international units in the winter. I know that is significantly higher than what is recommended, but we've been doing this for years now. For years. I mean, I treat kids with sickle cell disease, and we give them 5,000 and 10,000, and for most of them they do very well. In fact, I haven't heard any negative issue. So we need a lot more than what the official line is being put out. So I recommend 10,000 international units during the winter, and about 5,000 during the summer, because people hopefully go out more and are exposed to the sun more. That's my recommendation for my patients. Now you need to check with your doctor. I always have to say that. You got to check with your doctor and know what's right for you. Okay, all right, good. I'm going to go down. Hang on a minute. I think. Okay, I'm just going to go down now and start from the very bottom and then go back up. One more question, promise. Laurie, no problem. You can ask me as many questions as you want. My older sister has Alzheimer's, and my brother, a retired doctor, has some sort of cognitive dementia-like issue. What are the chances that this is inheritable? How do I determine my risk factors? Well, yeah, I mean, you can do the genetic tests. I can't tell you what is inheritable. Sometimes family members may have the same disease, but it may not be genetic. It may just be that you all have the same lifestyle at home, and you grow up with the same kind of foods and so on, and same same lifestyle, like I said, and that could have happened. Now there are genetic tests like the ApoE, E4 that's you can use to see what is your risk, and they can tell you based on your genetic profile what your risk is, so you can check that out. I don't really give too much weight to those things. It's important, but at the same time, you don't want to disrupt your life. I say do everything you possibly can, whether you know it or not, whether you know your genetic profile or not. Do everything you possibly can to strengthen your brain. Now, we gave you, if you only did the few things that I've mentioned today, you would be better than 90% of the population. Yes, 90% of the population if you did them correctly. Better sleep, take your vitamin D, take your vitamin C, take your zinc, take your omega-3 fatty acids. Make sure you cover your eyes when you're going to bed. If you did those basic things, you would be really on a very, very, very solid footing. I get my genetic tests done twice a year. Why would you do tests done twice a year? Will your genes change twice a year? I would think that once you do your genetic tests once, you would know what that should be enough. But I guess you must be either very rich or must have really good insurance. But whatever it is, good on you. I did not take off the CC. Very informative presentation. Thank you, Senator Genevieve. We need to pound on vitamin D supplementation. I agree, Hyacinth. We need to pound on vitamin D supplementation. I think it should be a law. I mean, if I were king for a day, I would say everybody who is black should be on vitamin D. Otherwise, we lock them up. I'm just kidding. I was recently researching information regarding mushroom supplements and brain health. Do you have any input on improvements with Alzheimer's? No, not with mushroom supplements. Mushrooms are really good in different ways for immune function, brain function, and so on. But I have not done anything with regard to mushroom supplements. What are the best times to take your blood pressure? I've been taken off of blood pressure medication. How do I best monitor this? I would say you get these things are dirt cheap. Well, not dirt cheap. I got mine for about $30. What I recommend is that you check your blood pressure. You go to the hospital, or you have a professional check it for you using the manual sphygmomanometer. Have them test that and compare with yours. If it's more than 10 apart, then the one you bought is a piece of crap. Take it back to return it and get one that is more sensitive. Any recommendation on the potassium supplements? I get mine off Amazon. I have a magnesium/potassium combo supplement, which works really well for me. I cannot give you any specifics, sorry. Not in public, that is. All right, any recommendation? Okay, let's go. But here's the thing, potassium, if you, the recommendation for potassium is, I don't know if you know this, but we're getting a lot less potassium than is being recommended. And potassium is very important for the brain. They're saying that you need about 4,700 milligrams of potassium. 4,700. Most supplements just give you 100 or 99 milligrams of potassium. I don't know why that is not being emphasized. We need about 4,700. Men is 4,700. I guess women is like 4,000. Either way, especially if you're older and you're heavier, you're probably going to need more potassium. So 4,700 is what is the standard recommendation. I take even I don't take that much. I think mine has so I take like 1,000 a day, and then my magnesium has like 700. Wow, I take a lot of magnesium, 700. And even what is recommended for magnesium, I don't think they're giving you a good. I think it's low. What is recommended? I think they recommend like 200 or 300 for magnesium. I think that's low. So so I say 10,000 international units per day. And if you take it at night, you find out you even sleep better. How does low levels of vitamin D correlate with fatigue syndrome? All right, so fatigue syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, and the other conditions, is one of the what they relate to as the autoimmune conditions. In a nutshell, vitamin D helps your immune system. It helps to regulate your immune system. So in things like chronic fatigue syndrome, like lupus, the immune system is being overactive in certain aspects and it's causing damage. What vitamin D does that it helps your body, tells your immune system to stand back, so to speak, to calm down, and helps regulate it better. So vitamin D can help in preventing. Now, my experience is that once you've got full-blown chronic fatigue syndrome, vitamin D alone is not going to do the trick. You might need some more help than vitamin D, but surely you have to have vitamin D. CMOS helpful. I just started adding it to my morning tea instead of drinking coffee. Well, it depends on CMOS being helpful for what. I don't have much experience with CMOS, but some of those things like seaweed and other things can be good. Tinnitus and the brain. That's a great question. All right. So thank you, Doris, for that question. One of the risk factors, now major risk factors that are beginning to find out that lead to dementia is when you have hearing loss in your middle age, like your 40s and above, and it persists. Something to do with hearing centers of the brain being the centers that are very correlated with memory and cognition, the ability to think and process information. And so they're very closely related. So when one is affected, when hearing is affected, it will affect processing power and ability. Some people say that, well, when your hearing is affected, the brain has to work extra hard to compensate for that hearing loss, and that might push it over the edge, so to speak. But they're still debating it. The question was tinnitus and dementia. There could be tinnitus with hearing loss. There could be tinnitus without hearing loss. If it's tinnitus with hearing loss, then that kind of lead more towards dementia. Without hearing loss, I haven't read much with regards to tinnitus without hearing loss and dementia. The problem has to do more with the hearing loss and dementia, but I could be wrong. This is great functional medicine information. Okay. Functional medicine. All right. Thank you. I always think in terms of just understanding how the body works. If we understand the basics on how, and I was forced to think this way because in Nigeria, I work a lot with the poor, the less privileged. They have no access to anything. They can't go do an MRI scan. They can't have access to a neurologist, a neuroscientist. They certainly don't have access to a functional medicine physician. So we always had to think from first principles. What are the basic things that these people need? What do their brains need? And what can we deliver to them in a safe format? And we start from there. And I'm telling you, once you start with the basics, don't go running after every fad here and there. You want to start with the absolute basics and then build from there. When you start with the basic, you find that things will begin to work, and then you can do the super duper things like the infusion, the stem cells, so on and so forth. But don't go jumping around doing those things if you haven't done with the basics, if you haven't dealt with the basics. Hey, Joseph, Russell, good evening, God bless. Oh my God, my sister had hearing loss in her middle age, and she also lost her sense of taste and smell. This is so awesome. Okay, well, how is she doing now? Okay, let me just quickly go through to see if there are any other questions that I could have missed. We're beginning to round up, folks. Beginning to wrap. Okay, hang on, folks. If you still have any more questions, let me know. I am going to shut this baby down. Oh. Okay, Denise. Haskins. Okay, good. Alrighty, Laurie, not well. Okay. I visit Port Harcourt for medical missions. Fantastic. Diet is a factor. Supplement your diet. Hey, Freda. So Frida goes to Port Harcourt. Nice. That's in Nigeria. Not well. She's in a very nice facility, but declining. Okay, well, my thoughts go out to her. Oh, Lori, take care. Very informative. Thank you. Okay, great. I'm going to go to your advance one does. Thanks a million. Okay, all right. Thank you, folks. You guys have been wonderful. Oh yeah, might as well just give you. So if you want to see more information, you can go to our YouTube channel. You can just type in my name. You see my YouTube channel where I address all the 12 causes of dementia and all the different things that we Black people. I actually have a Black channel called. I actually have it called Dementia and Blacks. What you need to do, Dementia and Blacks. So you can go to our YouTube channel. And that's my email address over there. If you ever want to send me an email. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm just going to check one more time. I'm glad you have the opportunity to talk about the importance of your community and your work as well. Do you have a website or book that I can buy? Okay. Yeah. So I'll just put in, as I give you my email address, I'm going to put my website address is basically you have it there, Brain and Body Foundation, bodyfoundation.org. And we are trying to address sickle cell disease in Nigeria. We're having some really good results. We're going to the governments and getting the permission to use certain nutrients. And so everything I've talked about today, we have used them extensively in kids and adults, and so we've documented them. So I know what I'm talking about when I say these things. So it said LinkedIn user says I can't see the email. It is david.wordquest@gmail.com. Yes, I am accepting patients. I do telemedicine. I do accept patients. However, you have to sign a waiver saying that you understand that I am not licensed to practice in the United States. I have patients all over the world, but I have to make sure that they understand that, and they understand they need to sign a waiver. Okay, can we get the slides? Yeah, send me an email, and we can do that. Okay, all right, folks. God bless you. Take care. Stay strong. Take your vitamin D. Have a good night. Bye.